right, hey there, Sam here with you. It's Thursday, February 28th, and we're going to look at the pound to the dollar here. Now, I've got a daily chart up here, so we really get a lot of range here. So here's the '07 high. So take note of this. Here's a 10-year to the 17 low, 10-year trend. Amazing, right? So you look here and you go, well, that's some sort of impulse, some sort of correction, or you could think trend. We go sideways, we trend. Now we're just retracing some of that. So, of course, first thing you do is just, all right, well, are we technical? That's the first question, right? Always how are we trading? Swing low, what are we looking for at the 50? Now, you might look at that and think, boy, we don't make the 50. Is that a front run? Well, probably. But you'd want something else here. That's we're on a daily chart. That's farther than it would appear if you were on a 2-hour or 3-hour chart. That's enough of a gap to create a question mark. So you got to look at that and think there's got to be something else there. Well, it can take a minute to find it, but I promise you there are no random pivots in Forex. All right, so there it is. So I'm right on that corner. Right on it. All right, so you look at that and you go, why doesn't it make the 50? All right, I thought that's, well, there's why, right? It's a tag the median line. So you had a corner pocket here that was realized. Now, interestingly, so you don't quite make the golden. So you're a little bit of a front run on the golden zone here, and you don't make target or the 50. So if you were chasing after that, if you caught that and you were looking for that algo target, well, you'd certainly want to know that was there as a potential resistance point. Well, it's a couple of things here. Potentially a resistance point as you came back, challenged that high. Looks like a little pump through it. Here was the pivot. And just enough to get to that median line and to deny those people that wouldn't know to look there. So they're sitting there with their entries at the 50, they get denied. Or if you were a buyer here, you're trying to get all the way to that algo target. Well, you bump into that. That wins the day. Interestingly, it falls right back to the golden zone. Then you get a slight break. That's the slight break here. So you lose the buy side algo. Then we get the retrace, and then it comes down. Now we're to and through. Well, note here that 50 here, if it's a front run, well, look down here. So we have potentially now front run on the entry, front run on the target, but those are not. Typically with an algorithm, it's going to be a little bit closer. Now, could be, right? We never know. All we can do is just try and identify their footprint. What did they do last? Hard to say. That's a bit far, right? So, which would make me think that the potential is here for, if nothing else, a move down here to get to that algo target. Could go lower. Right? So, if you would just start putting it all together, now let me take some of this off to just clear up the chart. We're not going to be able to see anything. So, let's get all of that. Hang on. Get that off. Okay, so I just have the Vegas wave. By the way, this is the Vegas wave just with a little color coding. Does that simplify things for you in terms of what side of the market to be on? It's just something as simple as the crosses. Yeah, no, it's not perfect everywhere. But if you just played those crosses, you'd end up better than most people. Okay, so here, if that's an ABC and we pivot here on the tag of the median line and approaching the 50, well, it gets a little wonky here. Now, of course, the pound is, we got plenty of volatility with the Brexit mess that everybody's trying to figure out how to trade. So one thing we can, I think, likely agree on is that this is going to continue to be a volatile market. So as we move from that C, now we get kind of a funky, it's there, but you'd have to trade it as 1, 2, 3, 4 with the extension in the 5th. And this ends up being a 4 here. We don't overlap the 1, so you do have a potential third here. Although it's not the prettiest I've ever seen. It doesn't work to put the 3 down here, even though you want to, because that just looks like a perfect little ABC triangle kind of sideways before you kick down. But you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just doesn't work. So you have to look here. It's long enough. You don't get the overlap of the 1, so I think you have the extension in the 5 if this if this count is going to hold. Well, so the first problem is the symmetry is not great. So you look at the length of the 4 relative to the 2. Is that a deal breaker? Well, it's not how you'd script it. So you would prefer not to see something like this because you're getting kind of the megaphone kind of a look down here. So are we going that low? Well, of course it's possible. So already I'm a little bit uneasy with the structure here. So you look and say, could this be some sort of, so here, just even here, you've got an impulse. So it's hard to try and come up with, boy, the dominance. You could go 1 2 1 2, but then even still that doesn't work because this is too big. So it's a little bit, you might just rationalize it, for lack of a better term, and think, well, okay, I got Brexit volatility. Perhaps that's creating the lack of symmetry here. Maybe, but approaching, no, if you're trading in here, because recognizing that there's going to be volatility, we still have a count here that's in play. So just working off of the dominant pivot, so just on the assumption that it's correctly labeled. So you say, okay, well, two, I've got an impulse here. If that's 1 2, fuller, if it's just standard ops, I'm going to look for a retrace. Now that is deep. That's deeper than you'd like for the 4. So then you look back and say, well, did they use something else? Well, if that's correctly identified as the 1, they don't challenge it. Well, they get up there, but they don't overlap the 1. So, I don't see another way to count it other than, well, even so here we can use the fib relationships to help try and identify. So even if we were looking for, here, the problem with using this as the 3rd and putting the 3rd down here is that you can't get an impulse out. Well, you can't get it. It looks more like an ABC, right? It's very, very hard to get an impulse out of that. And then you really would have to put the 4 almost over here so you get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 5. It just doesn't work. So you have to look at that and think, okay, well, if that's 1, 2, more likely, we know this is the high probability zone, so it's denied here of getting to the 1, 6, 1, 8, and then we get the big 4. So unless it's a correction, it's a more complex correction, and we're going to end up with an ABC into an AB. It's a couple of different ways it can go. So when you're unsure about where you're going, well, what I would suggest is just back out. So what are the algo footprints? Well, we know this potentially now is a pivot that we'd want to be paying attention to. It's not perfectly technical, but for a 4, as we've gone deeper than you would anticipate, and given the odd structure of it, or pardon me, the odd symmetry of the 2 to the 4, I'd be looking for the pull. How do you know? Well, this just comes from experience. I'd be looking for the pull on the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3 to see if I have something there to accommodate this extended 4th. So I don't love it as it is, but there's enough here to work with. So allowing for the possibility that this gets relabeled. Well, now you'd have to come down here. I'm still on the daily. Well, if I go down to the 4 hour and look at this, well, what have I got on my hands here? Well, if this is the 4 up here, which essentially we double topped up here, 2, 3, 4, 5 to give us the C of the 4. Well, this is pretty much straight down. 1, 2. Yeah, it doesn't really work. You don't really have a clear impulse. The best case you could do here is you've got impulse correction diagonal. So it's a little dicey. So what are the options? Well, even here on a 4 hour, this is going to be tough to dig that's the first retracement you've got of any size. So it makes me a little uneasy in here because I don't have clear subdivision. Now I can pull that and note here where you can see I've got an alert here at the 50 because while the Elliott count is a little unclear, well, more than a little unclear, it's very unclear because the structure, the subdivision doesn't really stand out. So as I will often tell you, when Elliott is most useful is when it's so bloody obvious you can't help but see it. Now here, you're really digging to try and work a count out. It looks like it looks like you can get a diagonal to finish down here, even though that's kind of an ugly 5th. But the broader structure looks more like it's an A, B, C. So that would have me inclined to think that there's a deeper retracement coming here. So knowing that alert is there on a 50, so regardless of how you identify it, maybe you put a box up there or something, or an alert, but just to declutter your chart and just so I can continue to show it to you. Well, this I certainly would want to see if we're trading technically there. So just grabbing the pivot up to the retrace, we get through the 50. It's not to the tick, but that certainly is the algo footprint sitting right there. So you've got software that started buying here and they're after that target. Well, if they get there and they got damn near, they may not make it. But if they get denied, well, what do we have here? So that certainly would look corrective. So what's it correcting? Well, we're past this pivot. So the only thing left is to be correcting that entire swing. So could this be, boy, it's going to be, boy, maybe you can go 1, 2 here, 3, 4, 5, but still, so you'd have 1, 2, 1. It doesn't work. So if that were an impulse, so if you could get your subdivision here with a very skinny 2 into 5 down, it wouldn't play as well as 1, 2. It doesn't work. So you'd have to go. Well, I guess you could do it this way. So you could get it. You could have an expanded flat here. So you could have it this way. If this is going to trade as the 1, we could have the 2 going in here. I got to put them somewhere. So let me go up a degree so it makes sense. Or 2. Let's go minuet. Okay. So if that's going to be 1, 2, and we're going to get an expanded. God darn it. Come here. Something along these lines. It's ugly. I know. So maybe we're getting an expanded flat before we head down for the 3, 4, and 5. So knowing that you're in a high risk pair here, you've got volatility coming next week. Well, you got volatility. I should show this. So this is the Forex factory calendar. You always have to check. You have to check reports. So we know we've got the ISM is on Friday, but it's next week where you have the big impact. So you obviously we're going to have the non-farm payroll report on Friday, first Friday of the month. But I've got nothing GDP related here, although we have, there's so much uncertainty with Brexit. And of course, knowing that these are going to affect the dollar, I'd be, somewhat cautious. Whoops, wrong chart. About just the entire trading environment. So I wouldn't be swinging for the fences here, and I'd be disciplined with my stop. So if this is going to trade as the 1, and we're going to I guess you could do it. You can get an A, B, C into that. So you'd have A, B, and this would be your C. So if that's going to play as the C, that's going to imply higher prices if we're going to do that. So just looking at a set of median lines to say, well, would that make sense? We're already through the median line, so maybe there's a bigger kick up here. Oh, so of course I've got no. Well, what if we don't make that? 1, 2. It doesn't quite work. So it looks like ABC. So this is either going to trade as a corrective ABC, but that doesn't work for a 2 because we'd want to see. Well, maybe I can get it. Let's go down to an hourly here. Can I get 5 out of that? Doesn't look like it. So it doesn't look like it's done. So we can definitely get a count on this. So from here, I can definitely go, if I can get this hot, I can definitely go 1, 2, looks like 3, 4, 5 still going in. So let's get that, and we'll change that degree as well. We'll go to micro. Okay, so if the 2 is going higher, well, I'm certainly going to be interested in what happens here. So do I have confluence there? So if this is my 1 and this is my 2, well, if I'm going to get to the algo target, that's the 1272. That wouldn't shock me at all if that's going to be our. Now you can see here I have alerts here because we have major reports coming up. I don't know if you guys know that here, but you can over here on TradingView you can set it up to show you. Whether you're looking at earnings reports or economic reports, you can put those right on the chart. So I do that particularly where I have a lot of data coming. So I don't come over here and forget what's coming. I'm not going to forget, but just so that you might not forget, right? So if you're new to Forex, that's something easy to do. You get excited about when you analyze something, everything's right, and you forget to check the reports here. So I just do it to demonstrate that for you, but I never start a day without checking over here. So with that said, if this is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, we're going to need the 2 is going to be higher up here. So now again, you got to pull back out and say, all right, well, where would that put me in the larger count? Well, if this is going to be 1, and if we're going to get an expanded flat, which You know, that's a bit of a guesstimate here based on based on the lack of subdivision here. So, you know, trying to put together a roadmap to some degree. Well, if this is going to be the one, so you got two issues to deal with. As an Elliott trader, you might do it this way. Well, that's my one. If this is going to go A, B, C, I'm interested in seeing what happens relative to the length of the one. Looking for that ABC, accommodating for an expanded flat, right? Which is not the norm, but you're kind of working with what you got here. Well, we know an algorithm doesn't give a shit about an Elliott count, so it's just going to use the dominant pivots. So if we're going to go up here, look where that puts us. If we're going to go up and get, so we'd be at second target. If we're going to go up to the golden zone, first we got to get through the 50. You know there's going to be resistance there, thus why I have an alert there. So if we're going to have resistance there, but we can get through it, then likely the next spot is the golden zone. So so it's actually pretty sweet setup. So if it goes up here and we can get that golden zone prior to next week or any developments with Brexit, boy, that sets up rather nicely because you know the bigger target is down here. Now, are we going to get a true third out of this? Let's see, this would have to come, would be back over here to give us that 5. So are we going to get a true five wave impulse down here? If that's 1, 2, we're going to go 3, 4, 5. Well, it's certainly implying much lower prices. So there's what's making this difficult is you're accommodating this expanded flat, which is not the norm, right? So you wouldn't, if you were looking for a trade, you wouldn't go searching for, show me all the expanded flats, because that's an irregularity, and that's, so you're outside of the normal. So it's, but this, that subdivision, it's not there. So anything you do, you're kind of, it's kind of a bit of a fudge, right? So you want to avoid that as often as you can. But I can just look at the swing. And so if I de-emphasize the Elliott and just say, okay, I've got swing, I do have a 3-wave correction here. I don't get enough here to make this make sense as a 1, 2, 1, 2. I've already invalidated this, so that can't be it. So process of elimination, well, could I have an ABC? Could I get an expanded flat? That seems a reasonable estimate here, recognizing that you're trying to trade off of an anomaly, something that we don't normally see. Not that we don't see them. It's just, again, it's not what you would choose to filter on, i.e. show me all the expanded flats. So I think there are trades here, but I would be very disciplined with the stops, particularly given the backdrop of what's happening in the UK. So if we're going to come up here and tag that algo target, so you have enough confluence there that there is definitely a short there. But be realistic and be aware that there's a real possibility that you're just putting in an ABC here. So you have to be realistic about how far that could go. Because what's the alternate? If it goes ABC, well then likely this is misidentified. This has to be the 1, despite the very poor subdivision. You'd have to go 1, 2. If this is going to be ABC, if we're to some degree, it's going to be a function of do we get that subdivision there so that you can lean in with a little more confidence in this count. Because right now, I got an A, I got a B, but I don't have a completed C. I mean, you could, no, because you'd need the impulse here. So you may have the 3 in here, and you're going to have a very shallow 4. So that would imply there'd be at least enough of kick to go up and challenge this zone here where we have this perfect overlap of the algo target in the 50. So if you're going to be a seller there, you just be aware of how that relates. You're going to be asking the market to give you a very shallow 5 here relative to the 1, 2. Is it possible? Yeah. But I wouldn't give it a lot of room. So yes, confluence. Now, do we have... let me clear this up a little bit here, and we've got this, so I take this off. So we could, of course, right, obviously, I'd like to think at this point nobody has to wonder what's coming next, so we're going to put some median lines on this. There's my corner pocket. Now, as it sits right now, if I'm right on those, we have yet to make the median line. Now, remember, trading principle number 4, failure to make the median line sets up a move equal to or greater than the move that preceded it that failed to get there. So if we were going to start retracing back down, bad news for this count, because it would leave you sort of hanging, unsure of what just happened, because you're looking for 5 here to finish this. that sets up as a better sell. So if you're thinking about this as an A, B, C, and perhaps the 1 is down here, perhaps we don't have an expanded flat. Maybe we just have a very, very ugly 1. I mean, you can finish it down here. You can get 5 to finish. Maybe you've got just an ABC going in here, and we're going to get through that 50. So just be aware that if you take that short, one, you're trading in a highly volatile market, so I wouldn't give it a lot of room. So trying to put that, can I get that pivot? No, I guess maybe I can on the 2 hour. I'd be very conscious of giving that a whole lot of room. I don't think you need to give it much room, so I might use a percentage, because the distance, if we think of it, if that's going to play as the 1, the distance between the 50 and the 618 is too big, right? Would be my suggestion. So if you get a little, I don't know that I'd be sitting there with limit orders just waiting for it either. I'd want to see the reaction there. Safest play, let it come away a little bit, take the first retrace maybe on the 30-minute, something smaller, knowing that you don't want to give this too much room. So you might be looking for any pivots. You don't really have anything glaring that's standing out, but you have such good confluence here. I wouldn't shy away from the short there. I would just be very, very disciplined about the money management and where that stop is. And if it gets through, let's see if I can do this. If it gets through, and we're going to head up and tag, wouldn't that be just beautiful? Tag the median line at the 618. That I'd be much more enthusiastic, because now I understand what's just happened here. Now I know where I am. So if I've had an A, B, and a C into a golden zone at a median line after the subdivision completes a 5, hell yes, that's a trade to take. That's a must take. But again, same thing. Because it's the pound, I sure as hell am not giving it a whole lot. I might give it on the other side of that. I give it the other side of the algo target. So let's set it up. So if I was looking at a short there, if it was offered, if you had the benefit of that. Now, where's that algo target? Way down here. So if you got something like that, and that's assuming if this is going to go 1, 2, well, that's nowhere near a 3, but just that alone is 11 to 1. If that sets up, yeah, I'm taking that. So I would have alerts at the 50. I'd have alerts as we approach the 618. I'd be watching that set of median lines. First tell is what happens at the 50 and that algo target from this, because these guys are after that right there. But we don't yet have a tag of the median line, so keep that in mind, right? So it creates the possibility for it to roll over if it gets news or data or anything that spooks the market. Then you have a potential free fall here, and then you got to kind of wait for more data, because what you thought was happening is not happening. All right, that's probably enough there. So that's one to watch. Both of these tradable, but as always, right, stop is not optional. It's mandatory. All right, guys, talk to you later.